All right. Hello, everybody. Great to have you back for our next knowledge transfer session for Lay Love Down. And today we have beautiful Rob Jameson, or handsome Rob Jameson. Thank you so much for being here, Bob. Truly appreciate it. I will just share screen for a moment and share Bob's website. Bob is a amazingly productive individual, and like I said before, he's a bit under the weather today, but he's going to stick around with us for as long as he possibly can. This is Bob's website, so robertjameson.com.au. He's got 6 amazing books. Is it 6 books or 8 books, Bob?
It's 6 books plus. If you sort of scroll down, you'll find this one here on the right of your screen. It's sort of like a booklet,
Okay,
and it's on my dyslexia. I
fantastic.
have difficulty reading, and my spelling's atrocious. And
Pretty
I
good
tell
effort for someone who's dyslexic.
I tell everyone I'd still be on chapter 1 of my first book if it wasn't for text-to-speech software, which was developed by a guy called Ray Kurzweil, and he actually worked out how you translate text into audio like that. You can. It was, as I say, it was designed for people that are blind or visually impaired. That they used to use Braille, but now they can basically hear the words. And I jumped on it very, very quickly because I realised it would help me read. And of course, the spell checker picks up most of my spelling mistakes.
Might,
So
might have to employ that myself, Bob.
yeah, it's
Um, while I'm here, our mutual friend has asked that we share this. So this is a wonderful tour, and Bob's going to be the tour guide.
yeah, I'll be the tour guide for people that want to come aboard the Lionsgate tour. And if you go to the Cosmic Consciousness Conference.com.au, which is on the top left-hand side of your screen, and
Oops, where's that? So that's
you'll be able to find out all about the tour, which will be
yeah,
this is Mount Tamborine. That's the one in December 2025.
go down
The
here.
Lionsgate
Lion,
tours will
Lionsgate.
be in August.
Yep,
That's it there.
it sounds
That should be
amazing.
absolutely fantastic. We're going to start in Adelaide. I'll be the driver of your bus and also the tour guide. We'll spend a couple of days at Wilpena Pound and then Cooper Pedy, and I think we're stopping at Marlborough. And well, anyway, check it out.
Oh,
Uh,
it's going to
um,
be fascinating, absolutely
um,
fascinating. So
that's got the itinerary there.
yeah,
Okay.
beautiful. So lots of places, and
Yeah.
with Bob leading it, it's going to be really just absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating.
Uh,
And again,
Well,
for those who want to see Bob on stage, he's also doing the Cosmic Consciousness Conference that I'm doing in Tamborine Mountain in Queensland for the December solstice. So this year, which will be really exciting. Okay, so I'll
that'll be
stop share now.
fantastic conference. And Tamborine Mountain is like everybody sort of. If you haven't been to Ayers Rock, Yulara, or you've got to go, it's a must visit.
Yeah.
However, if you've been there, um, and you had the choice to go to Yulara or Tamborine Mountain, I think most people would choose Tamborine Mountain because it's beautiful. It's like it's a couple of hours drive from Brisbane in the Great Dividing Range, beautiful climate, beautiful setting, and I'm looking forward to being there.
Yeah,
I've been
same.
to Queensland quite a few. I've told Mick that if he does a post-conference tour to check out Gympie, Gympie, I think. Um, there's a Gympie pyramid,
Oh,
and
that's
there's an ancient wall, and I'm
right.
absolutely sure uh, that that wall around the Uniting Church in Gympie was there before Western colonial development of the area.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
I mean, the more
it,
you learn, the more you realize that our
yeah.
history is just rubbish.
It's very similar in construction to the walls in Saxe-Human and all around the world. Of course, it's not acknowledged, like our historians say, well, look, it was built by the people that put the church there and things like that. But um, there is a pyramid type complex. I've been to the pyramid, what they call the Gympie Pyramid, which is not really a pyramid. It's just terraces of a sort of a mountain thing that's close to Gympie, and it's got all this terracing, and
Wow.
um, and again that was pre 1788. It was pre-colonial. So there, and it was, a serious earth removing works, and but the wall is also very, very. And I've got to go back. I did check out the church, but at the time I was just told, oh, there was a temple type thing, out where the wall is, where the terracing is, and they moved that wall to build the church.
Right.
But I don't believe that. I believe that the wall was there and they just sort of built the church close to the wall. And the fact that the wall is the same type of wall that you see in Saxahuman and things like that, where you got the 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 stones in the wall all fitting together perfectly.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, which yeah, just Google ancient walls and Google Gympie Wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Are there any glyphs or anything on it, like markings?
Any what? Sorry.
Glyphs or markings?
Um, a good question. I haven't seen any, Rachel.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good question. I would really like if it wasn't such a long drive. Like I'm in Adelaide, South Australia, and Brisbane's a long. It's 2 to 3 days drive. Um, and when I do these trips, I like to have my Nissan that I can sleep in the back, and I've got all my bits and pieces and things like that. So catching the plane's not really a good option. Um, yeah, but I really need to check it out, and check it out for glyphs. I haven't heard of any glyphs being certainly. Um, Stephen and Evan Strong have found glyphs in the Blue Mountains close to Sydney,
Oh, wow.
um, which are very interesting. But they'd be the best ones to talk to about that. That I have on my way back. I spent about 4 years living in Mackay, Queensland, in the early part of this millennium, and I was aware of the Gympie Pyramid. And on the way back, I called in and checked out what they call the Gympie Pyramid, which is not really a pyramid. It's terraces, significant terraces around the side of the hill, but I really like. I was sort of moving from Queensland back to Adelaide, and didn't have really the time to check it out. But
Yeah, no, fair
I,
enough. Edwina
I
just pointed out that the glyphs are at Gosford, but I was just curious, Edwina, if there are any where Robert was talking about as well, because again,
yeah,
our history is so it's we
yeah.
get a tiny portion of what actually is real. And I'm
Okay,
just
okay,
curious, Bob, as well. Have you heard about what's supposed to be under the Middle Pyramid in Giza?
I
Supposedly.
I have, and I've it's sending me and everybody else crazy.
Yeah.
This synthetic aperture radar, where they don't need to go and speak to Mr. Hawass. They can actually do it by satellites flying over.
He's all over everything, isn't he? Anything that's got anything to do with those pyramids, he's onto it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a group of academics from Rome that have actually worked out that they can check the structure, the underground structure of the pyramid by this synthetic aperture radar, which basically works on the frequency of, like, stones and rocks have all got a frequency, and they have determined, with their peer-reviewed papers and things like that, that there's structures underneath the Great Pyramid,
Yeah.
in particular the Khufu Pyramid, which I think is the middle one, and the structures go down 2 kilometers, and like if that can be substantiated, well, say goodbye to the claim that it was built by ancient Egyptians, 2700
Exactly.
BC. Like
Yeah.
they didn't build the pyramids. They didn't cut those 2.3 million limestone blocks with copper saws,
No.
although that's what they're claiming. But
Yeah.
to claim that they built structures beneath the Great Pyramid and the Giza Plateau that go down 2 kilometers. Well, that, like, I don't think anyone's going to believe that, uh, um, but it's fascinating. And what we've got is a pending paradigm shift
Yeah.
that basically the claims that 10,000 years ago, we were all hunter-gatherers and we started domesticating animals and living in cities and planting crops, and then we had the agricultural revolution, and here we are, 2025, zipping around in jets and things like that. That paradigm, that was a transition from hunter-gatherers 10,000 years ago to present day, is wrong.
Yeah.
It's demonstrably wrong. And really, our academics that teach this nonsense really should get a good swift kick up the backside and say, look, I'm sorry, guys, you're just going to have to scrap all those books and rewrite our history, because what you're teaching is just a load of nonsense. Like they just, to claim that they built that Great Pyramid that's full of granite, and it's pre-Iron Age. So, you go to the Egyptian. I haven't been, but they have in the museums in Cairo and places like that copper saws, but they're sort of about 2 foot long, and you can't you can't cut granite with a copper saw, and you certainly can't cut through meter wide blocks of limestone with a copper saw that's 2 feet long. Like,
Don't you need a diamond blade to cut through granite? I mean, it has to be something hard.
yes, you
Yeah.
do, you
Yeah.
do. And there's a really interesting guy called Christopher Dunn. If you Google Christopher Dunn,
Yeah.
and there was a guy called Flinders Petrie who, being a South Australian,
Yes.
we've inherited our state thanks very much to a guy called Matthew Flinders,
Yeah.
who was a grandson of a guy called Flinders Petrie.
Yeah.
Um, I think it might have been the son or grandson. But anyway, Flinders Petrie in the early 1800s spent a lot of time sort of moping around the Giza Plateau, and he picked up these drill cores that are sort of like that long and
Right.
sort of about that round, and they're actually tapered. They're a bit wider on the top than they are on the bottom, but
Wow.
they've got score marks go round and round and round and round. And so basically, they were somebody cut a hole in granite. And if you're sort of trying to drill a hole like that in granite, you don't have a bit that's wide. What you have is a circular bit, and you cut around and round and round, and then
But it
you,
doesn't taper. How did they taper it?
yeah, well, good question. But the real question that um like that people can sort of go to the academics and say, okay, we'll answer this one. And the one that Christopher Dunn is sort of hammering home is the fact that these score marks round and round and round and round are 500 times wider than what he can get with his diamond drill. Okay, so he's an engineer and he's top of his game. He's got he works with McDonnell Douglas and all these, designing and building the fans for the jets and all that sort of stuff. And he says, look, the the width of those round and round is what they call a feed rate.
Okay.
And as I say, he can get a feed rate sort of in the miller, so every time it goes around, it cuts 1,000 mil or whatever. The feed rate on these core flutes that Flinders Petrie picked up and has got in the Petrie Museum in London is 500 times better than Christopher Dunn can get with his 21st century diamond, which he uses to build the engines of the McDonnell Douglases and all the rest of it. So he's got the latest of the latest 21st century technology, but it's not as like it's the technology they had back in whenever it was I was building the pyramids was 500 times better than what Christopher Dunn's got, and yet we are told by the academics that they did all this with copper tools, which is absolute load of nonsense. I don't know how these academics that teach this nonsense can, like they should be hanging their head in shame. Like they're just misleading a whole generation of future. Well, I suppose the people that are learning this stuff at university, most of them are sort of hoping to, to get tenure at a university and keep on teaching the nonsense that they've been taught. But there's going to have to be a paradigm shift. Sooner or later, the House of Cards is going to collapse, and they're going to have to tear up their books.
I think we're living through that now, Bob. I think that's what's going on. I mean, that discovery under that middle pyramid is so monumental. Yeah. They can't put that back in the bag. That's not possible.
Well, what they haven't done, Rachel, is to do some drilling. There was a claim, this later thing, claimed that they found another void. They've got one where the Grand Gallery is and things like that. They found that they knocked you see pictures of the pyramid that's got a hole and got this thing, and they call that the Grand Gallery, but because of this later type thing, they said, well, there's another gallery there. And all they've got to do is just get a little drill and send a camera in to confirm, or look, so I know it looked like a gallery, but we've sort of it's not. Sorry, but they could also go down as well and confirm or refute the claim that they've got these huge 2-kilometer deep pylons and things that this Italian group have claimed is there. Just do some drilling. You don't have to excavate the whole bloody lot. Just a 20 mil wide. Push a camera down there and take some pictures.
Yeah. Okay, but they don't want to do that because then they're all their secrets that only the
exactly
are allowed to know will be out in the open. But what amazed me with some of the footage or the visions and some of the that they put together sort of like what they think it looks like apart from the LiDAR sort of or the sonic pictures, however they put that together. And there's 2 boxes at the bottom of these pillars, and it just looks like a massive battery. It just looks to me like it works for in the same way that apparently there's a lot of quartz underneath the pyramid and water running through that also creates a piezoelectric frequency or some sort of battery recharge. And there's always been sort of conjecture that they are sort of some sort of free energy device. So it makes a lot more sense now seeing those pillars and seeing the boxes beneath that it could well be exactly what we've the conjecture has been questioning.
Yes. Well,
makes a lot more sense than a sarcophagus.
It's a fascinating find, and really, we're just we've the responsibility is ours, right? We've just got to make them get to the bottom of this, right? So if there's enough people screaming, then the academics that want to protect their paradigm are going to have to sort of like the mountain of evidence. These paradigm shifts eventually collapse. There was a guy called Anthony von Leeuwenhoek that he was a draper, and he had a magnifying glass that he used to look at his, the cloth and things like that to determine the quality of the cloth. And one day he was sort of sitting by a pond, and he used his magnifying glass to look into the pond, and he saw all these little wiggly things swimming around. And he was observant enough to and bold enough to tell people that there's these little things living in the water. And he was scoffed at and humiliated and told he was, drunk or whatever. But he was a guy that found microorganisms, right, and microbiology. And as I say, like the people at that time didn't want to have to accommodate a new paradigm. But now they got electron microscopes and things like that, and it's just impossible to deny it. And I've got a list of what I call out of left field discoveries, and it's a long list. And I'm one of these people that rejoice at the collapse of an existing paradigm, because it's basically allowing us to move on and to discover and to develop and to progress, our life on planet Earth. Anyway, Rachel, I've got to go. I'm going to click myself out, and I'm going to say good night to all of you wonderful people.
Thank you for making the effort.
I'm not going to show you my wound again, but I'm going to have to call it quits and look forward very much to the next one, Rachel. Okay.
Totally understand. Thank you.
Love you all. Okay.
Really appreciate it.